The party seeks power entirely for its own sake. We are interested solely in power. Think about that for a second. That absolutely chilling admission comes from O'Brien, the terrifying enforcer in George Orwell's masterpiece, 1984. It's a statement that totally strips away all those noble promises of revolution, exposing the bare-knuckle reality of totalitarianism. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving deep into George Orwell's devastating and honestly timeless critique of totalitarianism. We're going to explore exactly how noble ideals get corrupted, how absolute power is constructed, and why Orwell's warnings from way back in the mid-20th century are still taught in classrooms and debated in the public square right now. Whether you're a literature student decoding these famous texts, or just someone trying to figure out the mechanics of power, you are in the right place. Let's get into it. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the promise of equality, move on to the corruption of power, examine the mechanisms of total control, analyze the destruction of truth, and wrap up with Orwell's warning for today. Section 1. The promise of equality, the birth of a revolution. To really understand these warnings, we've got to look at Orwell's own life first. Born Eric Arthur Blair in 1903, Orwell was actually a democratic socialist. He genuinely believed in equality and justice. But look right here at the middle of this timeline, 1936 to 1937. Orwell fought in the Spanish Civil War on the Republican side against fascism, and during that conflict, he saw Stalin-backed communists actively betraying other left-wing groups. They were manipulating information and using violence just to consolidate control. This was a massive shock to him. It showed him firsthand that totalitarianism isn't just some right-wing danger like fascism. It can absolutely grow from the extreme left when socialist ideals get corrupted. And this realization basically fueled his two most famous novels, Animal Farm in 1945, which, crazy enough, he actually struggled to get published because the UK was allied with the Soviet Union at the time, and 1984 in 1949. So that brings us to Animal Farm. On the surface, sure, it's a story about farm animals, but it is a seriously potent political allegory. It starts with a dream, right? An old pig named Old Major gathers the animals together and shares this grand vision of a society where humans, the oppressors, are finally overthrown, and all the animals live together in perfect equality and freedom. It's a really beautiful, idealistic start, and it actually perfectly reflects how almost all revolutions begin, with a genuine desire to fix an unfair system. Section 2. The corruption of power. How ideals are betrayed. But wow, look how quickly those noble ideals decay. For the literature students watching, the allegory here is pretty direct. Orwell mapped his fictional farm perfectly to the key players of the Russian Revolution. Old Major, with his grand vision, represents the foundational thinkers Karl Marx and Vladimir Lenin. The ideology they call animalism is communism. The clever pig Snowball, who wants to actually spread the revolution, represents Leon Trotsky. But then there's Napoleon the pig. Napoleon represents Joseph Stalin. And Napoleon, well, he isn't interested in the ideals of the revolution at all. He's interested solely in power. He uses fear, literally trained attack dogs, and a propaganda minister named Squealer to slowly but surely take total control. The emotional tragedy of all this corruption is probably best seen in Boxer. Boxer is this incredibly strong, simple horse who stands in for the loyal working class. His answer to literally every single problem on the farm is his personal motto: I will work harder. He completely 100% believes in the revolution. But how does Napoleon repay that kind of loyalty? Well, when Boxer is finally just too old and exhausted to work anymore, the pigs don't give him a peaceful retirement. No, they sell him to the slaughterhouse just to buy whiskey for themselves. It's brutal, but it perfectly encapsulates Orwell's point. Ordinary people who build the revolution are inevitably betrayed when leaders prioritize their own power. And nothing illustrates this ultimate betrayal better than the shifting rules. At the start of the revolution, the core commandment was beautifully simple: all animals are equal. Period. But as the pigs start taking on the very traits of the humans they overthrew, sleeping in beds, drinking alcohol, walking on two legs, they literally rewrite the rules to fit their new lifestyle. That original commandment is subtly changed to all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. It is a profound, almost darkly funny demonstration of how political ideologies can be twisted by those in power to justify their own privilege. The core message here is absolutely undeniable. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Section 3. Mechanisms of total control. Welcome to Oceania. Okay,
We're going to graduate from the farm allegory now and step into the totally inescapable, fully realized totalitarian state of 1984. Big Brother is watching you. We've all heard it, right? But in the novel, this isn't just a catchy slogan. It's the daily, terrifying reality of Oceania. Orwell takes the corruption we just saw on Animal Farm and asks a massive question. What happens when a regime has both the technology and the complete lack of morality to enforce total, absolute control? The answer? Fear reigns supreme, and the very concept of privacy is totally eradicated.
Just take a look at the tools the party uses to make this happen. Citizens are monitored around the clock through two-way telescreens. Imagine a TV that watches you back. There is a constant, unending barrage of propaganda. The thought police operate in total secrecy to eliminate anyone who even silently questions the regime. Privacy simply does not exist. But honestly, perhaps the most terrifying tool they have is psychological manipulation. The regime mandates this thing called the 2 minutes hate, where they literally force citizens into a daily, screaming frenzy of anger against fabricated enemies. You see, the party isn't just trying to control the physical body. They are actively working to crush the human spirit, ensuring people direct their love only toward the state while weaponizing every single other human emotion.
Section 4. The destruction of truth. Controlling the mind. To truly control a population, a regime has to do more than watch them. It has to control reality itself. Which brings us to the party's most vital slogan. Who controls the past, controls the future. Who controls the present, controls the past. In the novel, our main character, Winston Smith, actually works in the Ministry of Truth, and his entire job is to literally rewrite old newspaper articles to match whatever the party's current political agenda happens to be that day. Let's say the party changes an alliance, well, the history books are instantly rewritten to claim they had always been allied. Objective truth just disappears. And Orwell based this directly on Stalin's real-world tactic of airbrushing out-of-favor politicians from Soviet photographs and completely rewriting Soviet history. So the crucial point here is how they enforce this mentally. How do you stop people from rebelling? They do it through newspeak. This is a highly simplified language invented by the party, but its goal isn't to make communication faster or easier. Its actual goal is to limit human thought. By systematically removing words from the dictionary, words related to freedom or liberty or rebellion, the party ensures that, eventually, it will be literally impossible to even conceive of a rebellion. Why? Because the very words needed to form that thought simply won't exist anymore. And then there is doublethink. This is the extreme mental gymnastics required to just survive in Oceania. It's the ability to hold two completely contradictory beliefs in your mind at the exact same time and actually accept both of them as true. Like, you know that history was just rewritten because you rewrote it, but you also genuinely believe the new history is the absolute truth. It completely breaks the mind's ability to reason. It leaves the citizen completely, desperately dependent on the party to tell them what reality is on any given day. Section 5. Orwell's warning for today, the lasting echo. You know, Orwell wasn't just warning us about Stalin back in the 40s. He was terrified that modern technology would eventually make total control incredibly easy. And when we look around today, observers point out several areas where Orwell's ideas remain, frankly, highly relevant. We see massive debates over advanced government and digital surveillance tracking our every move. I mean, we grapple constantly with fake news and the manipulation of information online, which completely muddies objective truth. We see intense discussions around cancel culture and language policing, where the words we are allowed to use are heavily scrutinized. And globally, we still see authoritarian leaders who demand absolute, unquestioning loyalty from their citizens. Look, whether you lean left or right, it's pretty clear that the mechanisms Orwell dissected, the surveillance, the manipulation of truth, the control of language, these are active elements being hotly debated in our modern digital society right now. Orwell strongly believed that protecting individual freedom, defending objective truth, and demanding clear language are literally the only ways to prevent society from sliding into totalitarianism. His work dissected tyranny with terrifying clarity, proving that eternal vigilance truly is the price of liberty. Which leaves us with this final vital question to really reflect on. In an era of mass surveillance and fake news, are we actively preventing Orwell's nightmare, or are we already starting to live in it? Think about that and keep asking questions. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.